Okay. Okay. I'm going to call this meeting to order for the Polk County Board of Commissioners for Tuesday, September 24th, 2024. All commissioners are present. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, next up is comments for items not on the agenda. Please come forward.
Morning.
Morning.
Andy Strauss, 611 Southeast Rosewood Lane. I'm just gonna take a couple of minutes, share a term called trauma trigger. September 7th is a date that's a trauma trigger for our family, which Sheriff Garton and Mr. Isham back there is well aware of. Received a phone call on September 7th from 3 different girls, one being my daughter included. And that's just seeing Sheriff Garton's sign that was put out on September 7th, probably pure coincidence, but talks a little bit about integrity, honor, service, and pride. I'll just share a little bit real quick. September 24th, today, on March 3rd, 2022, my dad and I came into the Polk County Sheriff's Office for a scheduled meeting with Sheriff Mark Garton and Captain Jeff Isham that lasted approximately 2 hours. This meeting was discussed the concerns we had over issues of honesty and integrity and the lack of professionalism within Polk County Sheriff's Office that we witnessed and had been subjected to while interacting with Polk County Sheriff's Office beginning on September 7th, 2021. After sharing all our concerns with the 2 highest ranking leaders of this agency, sharing with them how certain deputies and members of their team were highly inappropriate and disrespectful, and showing them lies and discrepancies of the written reports that didn't coincide and say the same things that the audio recording said, we felt this was a huge problem and a reflection of the agency. We also shared how unprofessional and disgusting it was that their female deputy continued using filthy and offensive language throughout the case, both in our home and to our daughter, using the F word multiple times on different occasions. The sheriff himself told us they would look into this and they were not scared to address stuff, especially when they screw up. Yes, those were Sheriff Garton's words, which I have here in a recording from that day. You see, when it's your minor child who's been a victim of sexual assault and strangulation, it fires you up and makes you want to do everything in your power to make sure that it doesn't happen again and that another child doesn't experience that same kind of trauma. After we met on March 3rd, 2022 with Garton and Isham, we thought we would hear a follow-up from him fairly soon since he himself said he'd be in touch and follow up. Nope, we did not hear back from this. In fact, we have never heard back from him again on this issue. He said he would work with us so we could possibly come back and hear the recording that wasn't released to us when all the others were. And that was the audio of the interview with the deputy in question and the man who sexually assaulted and strangled my daughter. Not only did Sheriff Garton not follow back up with us in regard to our complaint and concerns, he went a step further and objected the DA's order to turn over the body cam audio to us that we had requested, which was the interview between his deputy and this disgusting man. Why hide it? Why not allow us to listen to it? Our only assumption is that it didn't reflect a good image of the deputy in the Polk County Sheriff's Office. Sheriff Garton was not and is not concerned about the people he's supposedly serving in this area. Sheriff Garton was more concerned about protecting his female deputy than protecting my daughter and the other female victims. This deputy became the one person that the men at Polk County Sheriff's Office and other agencies, not just Polk County, was going to protect no matter what. How sad that Polk County Sheriff's Office was more concerned about hiding the dirty little secrets instead of protecting and serving these girls who were victims of the heinous acts. I've requested and paid for every report and audio recording from this case. So of course, I requested the audio recording of my meeting with Garton and Isham. It was very clear after I received the audio recording of my meeting with them that they had zero intention on practicing what they preach in their core values, which are honor, integrity, professionalism, and respect. Nope, the true reflection of their character came out loud and clear when I listened to the audio recording of our meeting. Unfortunately, I don't believe that they knew the audio recording was still going after they gave a very fake Now, in my opinion, goodbye and thank you
Your
for
time,
coming in to my dad.
your time.
Can I submit this? Okay. The door barely closed when they started in on making fun of me and my intelligence and my lack of ability to track and communicate. Garton also proceeded to lie, stating that all I do is yell at people, including him, and he had to set me straight, so to speak, the day before while on the phone with my dad. He proceeded to tell Isham in a very relieved tone that it was done, and that's good. Right there in that moment behind the scenes, I realized Sheriff Garton had zero intention on following up and addressing this. He obviously had zero concern or respect for women who go through traumatic sexual assault events where strangulation's used and could have easily been a fatality. He has zero concern or empathy for trauma, which includes physical, mental, and psychological damage to the victims. Never once was his focus on the victims. It was all about protecting himself and his agency from the inner office scandalous affairs that he was trying to cover up. Mark Garton is not a leader, and he's definitely not qualified to be sheriff. With what I witnessed these last few years, a leader would address the issue head on, not hide behind the closed door, and not address the complaints and concerns. A leader and sheriff wouldn't make fun of a mom who's advocating for her child and other girls when the agency failed her child and caused secondary trauma. You don't walk your talk, Mr. Garton. You have shown that you can't be trusted. You have shown your true colors, and they are not reflective of a leader and definitely not a sheriff. We'll leave that for him.
Any other comments? Okay, moving on. Approval of the agenda.
Also move.
Second. Then moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, passed unanimously. Approval of minutes of September 17th.
Move approval.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, passed unanimously. Sheriff update, Sheriff Garton.
I just wanted to cover a few things that we've been doing over the summer. Start with the most recent thing we've did in terms of community engagement is buckets of brass event that we had up on Gooseneck Road last weekend or this past weekend. There were about 40 folks from the community that showed up to help. There are probably 15 or so volunteers that came and helped facilitate the whole thing. Community Corrections was a great partner, and BLM and the sheriff's office. And then we also went out to the community and asked for prizes essentially for different groups for like a youth division and an adult division. And so we got lots of community support for that. And so we had plenty of prizes for everybody. And the only thing that we heard that we should have done a little bit better on was advertising ahead of time. The ways we did it apparently didn't reach the people that thought they should have seen it, but didn't. So that's something we'll just work on next time. Beginning of September, we had our forest deputy position start back up. That's a partnership between about 11 timber companies, BLM, City of Falls City, and the county, obviously. So that position is a full-time 40-hour-a-week position. That position will spend about 2 hours of their workday in Falls City, and then the rest up in the woods. We haven't had that position since 2017, 2018, somewhere, I think right before COVID. So it's back. It's going well. So we got Deputy Silverman, who is that deputy. And then we're connecting him with the folks in Falls City that he needs to know and that kind of thing to be able to help in the ways they want the help. And that's kind of what we talked about, going into the schools and traffic enforcement and those kinds of things is what they're expecting. So that's something we'll provide. For the month of August and currently in September, we're participating in a distracted driving and speed related grant. That's from ODOT. And so during the month of August, we had 6 deputies participate throughout the month, typically pretty small blocks of 3 or 4 hour blocks. And so 86 speed violations, 13 cell phone violations and arrest. And several driving while suspended folks just during the month of August. I don't have the September stats yet. But for patrol, we've been averaging, so for June, July, and August, averaging about 1,408 calls for service per month. with an average of 44 arrests per month, 99 crimes, and then 205 911 calls is about what we're averaging throughout the summer, which in June and July, August numbers were higher, and I typically see that. That's not abnormal, but just people trying to get stuff done before school and all that starting. So staffing in the jail, we're full staffed in the jail. On patrol, we're down 2 deputies. We have 2 more potentially, 3 potentially in processes with OSP and Yamhill County. So that is like a February timeframe for when the OSP class is going to start. So we're hiring. We have a current process going right now, and just trying to get those up. We have 2 people in backgrounds right now, so it's just a matter of getting them up and going and on staff. So, but that's really all I have. I don't know if there's any questions that you all had or things that I need to go figure out and get answers for.
So, talk him up on the safety corridor as far as coverage. Do you know if OSP are they still offering the overtime pay to cover that safety corridor of 22?
Specifically on 22, I haven't heard that they've stopped.
Okay, so I know it's still going. And are we getting adequate coverage out there for that? And on that, the meeting followed through is can we move some of that attention back towards the corridor between Rickrell and Duxbury Road for the 2251 interchange, just slow some of the traffic through that intersection, possibly alleviate some of the accidents we're experiencing.
So focusing not so much on this safety corridor
Correct.
for like going up.
Move some of that back and forth between the two.
Okay. I'll find out and get back to you on that.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay.
Okay, so yes, I do have a couple questions. So following this one, specific to speed issues, clearly we're all seeing the behavioral challenges with drivers on Highway 22. I guess so many people think it's a 4-lane freeway. And we all know that the mechanics of injury are substantially increased by speed. And so given the challenges that we're having, it's Highway 22 and 51 intersection is certainly a focus, but everywhere. I mean, again, our most recent big day with traffic backed up and crashes, you also had Greenwood Road. So there's a lot of associated behaviors that are challenging. I'm curious about what your position is today on patrol of that stretch, the entire stretch of highway on Highway 22 in Polk County. Where are we at today, and what's your philosophy and strategy on trying to mitigate driving behaviors?
You know, we've been talking about adding a traffic deputy like that just does traffic and crashes and that kind of thing. But we got to that point where we're about ready to make that happen. And then we have folks leaving for another agency that puts us down several positions. And so our core responsibility is that responding to calls for service and that kind of thing. And so having an ability for a person to be not tied to the radio per se of that kind of issue and be able to focus on traffic safety is something that we want to do. It's just not funding, but body wise, we haven't had the ability to do that. I'd like to do that. In terms of specific what we're doing now for traffic safety and participating with those grants that are specifically for state highways. They're not for county roads. So that's our avenue right now to be able to go out and add extra layers of traffic enforcement through the ODOT grants. The other times, our folks that are doing traffic stops are doing it on their way to a call or in between calls. And so having the ability and having the right amount of staff to be able to fill all those is key, and we just haven't been able to get there.
And so with that, then what's your communication? I'm sensing not very much, but communication with OSP about that is their role, that is their job, along with investigating crimes. What's their philosophy on supporting mitigating behaviors on Highway 22?
I would say 90% of the time when we call and ask them for help for a crash they come. And we have let them take more of a role in being that crash response. Yes, we'll still go if there's a life safety issue. But we rely more on OSP to handle the crashes that, there's no injury, but it might be blocking or off the side of the road or something, and let them handle that because that is their responsibility. So we can focus on doing patrol stuff. So I haven't heard again that they've stopped that extra funding for safety corridor. We meet with, OSP shows up to those meetings generally every month that we have with all the police chiefs. They weren't in our last one, but so that's something that I'll confirm with them if that's still happening and figure out, I can get like number of hours and stuff, just so you have an idea of how much time they're spending in that safety corridor in that area. I'm guessing I can get that from them.
Well, Sheriff, I think you're aware, but I need to remind you that some of the challenge that we have working with ODOT on safety corridor designations has been your office does not do the work that they need to have supporting, not saying it's you specifically, but this has been their statement over my tenure that we don't support the safety corridors with patrol. And of course, my rebuttal to them is, well, you have an agency, state, that's supposed to do that. Why aren't you saying that to them? But that is one of the rebuttals that they have to us, is that we, Polk County, don't do enough enforcement.
That's wrong.
Yeah, in these traffic safety corridors. All I'm asking for is that while you have these conversations with Oregon State Police to say, you need to be here, not just when they crash, because that's too late, right? That incident has happened now. We need you to help us with changing behaviors. Again, my frustration runs high right now, and I'm sure for everybody, that we can't get the money we need to make the physical improvements and changes to mitigate behaviors. Like putting blocks of brick or of concrete down the middle of highways to help change behaviors, or overpasses. So the other tools we should have available to us throughout our enforcement processes to get people to slow down. And we're failing. We're losing that battle as a community. And it's not just Highway 22. Obviously, 99 in front of my own house. I have traffic that's 100 miles an hour on a road regularly. It's behaviors, and it's what people do. So I'm asking, please push on Oregon State Police more. You guys got to show up. Please hang on. And I don't want to interrupt his presentation. So that's what I'm looking for. And, tell us how that goes and how we can help in that regard, because as we work the ODOT side and, traffic safety issues, those things keep coming up, and it's a scapegoat, I'm confident, but you just need to hear about that.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Additionally, my question is about the jail, and a big concern we all share about medical expenses in the jail. Tell us where you're at on that right now, and what process is happening that you might see some hope in mitigating the medical expenses that you're encountering at the jail.
I mean, the only thing that I can see that would fix that issue is the Medicaid fix to be able to charge insurance companies costs for doing medical related things inside the jail, because the public may not know. As soon as you get arrested, if you have private health insurance or OHP, it stops immediately. And that financial burden falls back onto the county or the agency that is holding that person. There is a process. I'm not exactly, I know it's still going. I just don't know if it's coming up for a vote or in the federal legislature, but in terms of having that ability for the insurance to stay on, it's some federal fix that is supposed to happen. If that happens, that would be the only way that we could recoup costs, because medical costs, everybody knows, is going up regardless of where you're at. And we're not big enough. It's not like we're not Salem Health or something inside the jail. So, we are very limited on our resources. We've looked for different pharmacies, found cheaper alternatives, moved to those pharmacies to help reduce costs. And then, the insurance thing is the biggest that we don't have that ability to do. We treat basic medical care, and it's not like we're a full service medical clinic. I mean, we really just do the basic things. But we're seeing that higher level of need inmate come into our facility, and that's something we can't control at all. And so we're seeing folks come in with significant mental health issues tied with drug abuse and substance use disorder, and then we have to deal with that person or other significant medical issues like brain cancer and just things like those things we cannot control. But really, the only thing I can see that would help that would be that fix with Medicaid, and that's something that we have brought up multiple times at OSSA. OSSA is really pushing that because it affects all the sheriffs in the state. So we believe it'll pass. It's just, I don't know when that will happen. That'll be a whole nother changing of our process because we'll have to figure out billing and insurance and all that stuff to be able to bill and how that process will work. So that'll be a whole nother endeavor.
What I'm trying to do here is to help you express to the community the challenges that we have and what it really costs. And in some cases, why we would try to opt out of housing them.
100%.
And so I don't think the community really hears that from you. And so I'm trying to eke that out a little bit here so that folks can understand what the impacts of medical costs that you inherit when you book somebody. And in some cases, you have no choice. You have to keep them because the crime is such that you have to house them.
Yep.
And so a brain cancer, for example, and that is a reality, it happens, comes into your facility, it can be as much as, we've been told, $50,000 a month for those kinds of expenses. And the taxpayers need to hear that. I don't think they know that's what's happening. And again, as you say, it's happening to every county across the nation because of these rules. My political expression in this is that we all, as a community, need to work together to make certain that Congress understands what this is doing to our property tax bills, because it's our property taxes that are paying this. And there's no other dollars, as you've expressed. And it's crazy. It's just crazy that we all pay with our income taxes for Medicaid, and we pay with our own pocketbooks for our private insurance, yet those are disqualified the minute they walk in that jailhouse door. And it makes no sense to me. It's never made sense to me. In my 14 years here, I've been dealing with this. I don't think we talk about it enough, Sheriff. I want to continue to talk about it so that our community, our voters, our participants in a process understand what you're dealing with and that there's nothing you can do except we pay the bill and continue to help these people. We can't just turn them out because we don't want to pay their medical bills. So that's what I was doing, gleaning that for your benefit. So anyway.
Chair, if I may, there's a opportunity to advocate at the state level too, to ensure that Medicaid coverage is covered under the waiver, the new 118 waiver, and there is momentum there. So that's a short-term fix. Obviously, the long-term fix is the federal fix, and they fixed it for children of incarcerated parents, which is good. That was a recent fix, but doesn't get us all the way there. So, yeah.
Thanks so much.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Sheriff.
Captain, sorry. Anything additional you want to add?
Well, I was just going to add that there is continuous communication with OSP in regards to 22. Unfortunately, I-5 is their baby, and that's what they put their troops there. They need to keep I-5 open because that's where all the trucks go. And so they just don't staff it out here. We've asked over and over and over again, and it'll get better. They'll put a car out here for a little bit. And then that car is back across the river over on I-5. And they've just flat out said staffing and I-5 is their major concern. With the limited staffing that they have, there's a reason they're stealing all our people is because they're short on people as well. And so that's why we don't see the coverage out here. But we communicate with them frequently. They're aware of our concern, and it comes down to a staffing issue with them as well.
Thank you. Somehow, Captain, we need to find, and Sheriff, we need to find a way to collaborate here on the words we want to use to the governor's office and the state police superintendent over this issue. I'm tired of kicking this can around. The bottom line, again, we're all paying for this. We expect that agency to be here to help us with a what, 50,000 cars a day traveling that highway. And this is not the first time I've heard this statement, yet we sit here essentially as a board, we do nothing because I guess we just rely on you to communicate that for us. But as I said, some of the challenges that we have is ODOT uses that as a reason why they don't want to use some tools that we think is essential. We know safety corridors absolutely work, but we have to have enforcement to make them work. If you don't stop those people and give them the fine that's double in that zone, it doesn't work. So we need to figure out a way to communicate that to them that we need to change behaviors on these highways. Speed kills. So, thank you. I almost talked more than the sheriff did, sorry. Unlisted items.
No, sir.
Okay. We will need to meet in executive session at 10 o'clock.
Correct.
And this will be to have, well, can you help me with that?
I'll
Thank
happily.
you.
Sure.
I don't want to do it wrong.
The board will recess and at 10 a.m. reconvene in executive session pursuant to ORS 192-660 sub 2H to consult with counsel concerning the legal rights and duties of a public body with regard to current litigation or litigation likely to be filed.
Thank you. We are recessed.